I can remember talking very loudly a couple of years ago about the Bears wanting no part of Russell Wilson. No part whatsoever. A lot of Bears fans disagreed, which is why in general you shouldn't take their opinion on the quarterback position very seriously. And it really comes down to the fundamental question of why. Why would the Seahawks want to move on from a franchise quarterback? Why would they want to move on from a guy that's brought stability to the most important position in the game? Why would you want to risk not being able to have that guy when it can be so hard to find one? Why would the Seahawks want to trade him when he was only in his early 30s and in theory had many years of his career left? Why? Why would any team want to pay the type of package necessary in order to bring in a Russell Wilson? Why would anybody think that he's a multiplier, meaning that he makes the offensive talent around him better when you actually had evidence to the contrary that he made some of the offensive talent around him worse, specifically the offensive line? Well, the Denver Broncos said, nope, we don't care. We want him. We're all in. So they give a big, huge package to the Seahawks to trade for Russell Wilson, bring him in, and last season was a disaster. There's no other way to put it. You hire the wrong guy as head coach in Nathaniel Hackett. He doesn't even make it through the first season. And not surprisingly, Russell Wilson has a disastrous year himself. He only completed 60% of his passes, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, over 10% sack rate. Like, all the things you were worried about Russell Wilson, in the later stages of his career kind of manifested there, right? But you make this big trade to go get him, and then you put him into a bad spot, and you wonder why it doesn't work out better. You know what I mean? So there was some thought about, like, hey, do you have to cut your losses? Meanwhile, they failed to mention the Broncos gave Russell Wilson a big contract extension for a shit ton of money. But it seemed like the Broncos organization, general manager George Paton, decided, hey, like, we got to get this right. We've made this commitment to Russell Wilson, so we got to do everything we can to make it work. And tried to rectify that by trading for Sean Payton. They had to give up a first-round pick to trade for his rights from the New Orleans Saints. But you're bringing in a guy that spent years working with Drew Brees. You're bringing in a guy that's won a Super Bowl, bringing in a guy with an offensive background, bringing in a guy who was a former quarterback way back in the day. Everything that Nathaniel Hackett really wasn't, right? So, the hope for Broncos fans is, by God, this has got to work better than 2022. And to some degree it did, right? Like, Russ has been a little bit better in 2023. Not exactly studly, and still plenty of the flaws that exist. Like 7 games passing for under 200 yards, but he does have 8 games this season where he's thrown for 2 or more touchdown passes. Right? His sack rate's down a little bit, but it's still the 4th highest of his career. It's right around 10%. It's not great. But 26 touchdown passes, only 8 interceptions. So turning the ball over less, but still taking some really bad sacks. And, when people talk about, hey, Russell Wilson's playing better, it's like, well, relative to last year, yes, but he is certainly not playing at a level that is franchise quarterback worthy, especially when you look at the film. And it's amazing how often you still see Russell Wilson run himself into trouble in the pocket. He creates sacks that just don't exist. And Broncos fans are starting to figure that out. He misses guys consistently. Like, his ability to play within structure is very hit or miss. But all of that said, you didn't look at it and feel like, oh, he totally sucks. He's totally disaster like you would have last year. And the Broncos, with 2 games left to go in the season, are sitting at 7-8 with very remote chance at the playoffs, but still theoretically, hypothetically, mathematically, a chance. And when you look at this team, you say, okay, it got a little bit better. It didn't get a whole lot better. But a big reason for that is their defense absolutely sucks. Like, yeah, it's embarrassing to lose to the Patriots like they did this past weekend, right? But when you look at the season, the defense is 30th in total yards allowed, 29th in points allowed. So to blame Russell Wilson and the offense primarily, exclusively, or even a lot for the Broncos' struggles in 2023 seems to be missing the plot. But for some reason now, the Denver Broncos have decided that they're going to bench Russell Wilson for the last 2 games of the year for Jarrett Stidham. It's damn like deja vu back to what the Raiders did last year when they benched Derek Carr the last couple games of the season for Jarrett Stidham. And I guess my question here is, what the fuck took you so long? You won too many damn games to realistically be in the draft market for a quarterback, so I was fucking dumb. You're basically saying, fuck it. You don't want to allow Russell Wilson to stay around to where $37 million in guarantees for injury would come into effect for 2025, even though you're the team that gave him the fucking contract that had that language built into it. And you're saying at this point, basically, that you're ready to move on from Russell Wilson, which means that assuming, this is a big assumption. You know what happens sometimes when you assume? It makes an ass out of you and me. Assuming that you're going to designate it as a post-6-1 release, meaning that you're going to have $85 million in dead cap to the tune of $35.4 million for 2024 and $49.6 million for 2025. What the actual fuck? Holy shit. I'm just boggles my mind that the Broncos knew they were going to do this for a couple of months. Then why fucking wait? Why delay? You screwed up your draft position. You put it at risk potentially where Russell Wilson could get hurt, which could cause you a problem in terms of those guarantees vesting on the contract. What the fuck are they doing? If you're a player in the Broncos locker room right now, even if you don't like Russell Wilson, even if you think he's a phony ass, even if you think he's somebody that isn't a leader, is somebody that you don't really respect as a person all that much, how could you be okay with this at this point? Like, what player would want to go to the Broncos knowing that, hey, yeah, there's a contract here, but as soon as you get a chance to get out of it, they're going to fucking do it and fuck the player in the process? Like, what player wants to be involved with that? What player would sit there at 7-8 with 2 games left to go in the season and say basically, hey, they're going to Jarrett Stidham. We don't give a shit now. Why in the hell should the players bust their ass for a team that clearly doesn't give a shit? And perhaps the most important question of all here is, why in the bluest of blue fucks should General Manager George Paton continue to be employed by the Denver Broncos? He's the fucking moron that made this dumb dick trade for Russell Wilson. He's the idiot that exacerbated the problems by hiring the wrong head coach in Nathaniel Hackett. Later on, giving Russell Wilson this dumb-ass contract extension that had this language in there for guarantees. You're trying to get out from your own fucking mistakes that nobody forced you to make but yourself. Why the hell should this clown still be a general manager in the NFL? Why would any agent want to deal with this guy? Why would any player want to deal with this guy? Why would any coach want to deal with this guy? Additionally, if we want to go there, I know you just traded a first-round pick so you could bring him in, but if the Russell Wilson shit didn't work, then why should Sean Payton still be employed by the Denver Broncos? This almost makes you wonder, no matter what, they made the trade for Sean Payton to bring him in because they wanted him to be the coach long term. And no matter what was going to happen this year, Russell Wilson was going to be a goner for 2024. That's what it feels like, doesn't it? Because you bring in Sean Payton because you want to see Russell Wilson improve. Statistically, he did. And I think in general, he did. He wasn't great. He certainly didn't play at a franchise quarterback level, but he was at least like competent average NFL starter level, which was much better than 2022. So there was progress. And the team was better, at least offensively. And they're basically saying, fuck you, sit your ass down. We're not going to let those $37 million in guarantees vest on this contract. Like, what the actual fuck is going on here? So, bottom line, they bench Russell Wilson with 2 games to go in this season. If I'm Russell Wilson, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed at my agent for not ensuring more of those guarantees were lock, stock, and barrel guarantees up front at signing, personally. Like, for those that say, oh, I feel bad for Russell Wilson. No, I don't. You don't want this shit to happen. Fucking play better. Be a little less focused about being Russell Wilson and being with Sierra and being some type of weird-ass power couple, and focus more on playing better football. The dude got 120, whatever the fuck it is, million guaranteed, 150 million, whatever the hell it is. The dude made a shit ton of money. Nobody should be crying over Russell Wilson's treatment here in Denver. They gave up a lot to give him, and they gave up a shit ton of money because the Denver Broncos are stupid. And they have a stupid general manager who for some reason is still employed, and for reasons I am yet to figure out. But this is stupid. Like, he got better, and you're still going to move on from him anyways. If you were going to do this, then you should have just cut him last season. Before this season. Like, why delay the inevitable? You clearly were going here the whole fucking time. And imagine Russell Wilson having to be in a spot where he knows for a couple of months that if they don't change the language in the contract and they don't adjust this, they're going to cut him. So he's playing in the back of his mind knowing that this shit is probably going to happen, which paints the whole different light. Sean Payton going off on him on the sidelines and everything else. Just a bad look all the way a fucking round for the Denver Broncos. What a joke. What a joke. And it is a problem entirely, completely, and solely of their own damn doing.